For our lesson, we want to extend the instruction from the Shaping the Way We Teach English bilingual primary classroom video, also known as the Scratching Poisonous Monkeys video, by integrating translanguaging into a lesson based primarily on ideas from another short video we watched in Week 12, Bridging Content in a Bilingual Classroom. From our observations of the original Shaping the Way We Teach English video, students are in a bilingual primary education classroom. In the video, the students are focusing on English syntax and breaking down the function of different types of words, i.e., adjectives, nouns, verbs, adverbs, prepositions. They are learning sentence structure through content-based instruction about the rainforest. The educator uses class discussion by calling on specific students to form sentences and instruct on apt adjective and noun pairings. She also uses hand motions and role-playing to have students act out the phrases to connect meaning to the words. The instruction is entirely in English in this video, although it is assumed they are also being instructed in Spanish at other class times. We are assuming there is a mix of native English speakers and native Spanish speakers in the classroom based on the proficiency levels of the students, although it could just be English language learners with different proficiency levels. We aren't sure. The educator appears to be a native English speaker, but she does seem to have some knowledge about the Spanish vocabulary, as noted at 9:15 in the video when she uses the word venenoso and discusses Spanish syntax. We are assuming that she is bilingual and teaches in both English and Spanish. For example, at 21:02, she references English hats on or else. Our insight about the class instruction is that while it is relatively interactional, there were often students that were not engaged or were not raising their hands, and thus were unable to participate, or were called on and unable to answer. There also appeared to be a strong aversion to using Spanish during this portion of the class unless specifically asked to do so, perhaps alienating students with a lower level of English proficiency. As a result, our lesson plan seeks to be more interactional with student-to-student based discussion and interaction, ideally with students of different language proficiencies. Additionally, we seek to incorporate some form of translanguaging to level the playing field between native English and Spanish speakers, allowing them equal opportunity for input and giving them the ability to support one another.
One of the theoretical bases for our lesson plan comes from Aronson's jigsaw model. Pierogi and Boyle describe this model in the following way. One segment of a learning task is assigned to each group member, who then works to become an expert in that area. After researching their special areas, the experts from each group meet to compare notes and extend their learning. Finally, the original groups meet again, and the experts report back to their original groups. Pierogi and Boyle point out that this model is beneficial because it promotes the development of group autonomy and encourages students to use their critical thinking abilities and social skills to work things out on their own. We also sought to incorporate Zweier's instructional method of incorporating activities to improve discussion. As we mentioned, overall classroom discussion was productive, but not every student was able to participate, and most of the questions that were asked were display questions, which only provided one predetermined correct answer for the students to give, and they didn't delve much deeper into the subject at hand. Using the jigsaw model and Zweier's instructional method of incorporating activities to improve discussion, the academic focus of our lesson plan is on translanguaging. Jacobson proposes a 50-50 model through which each language is used half of the time. He suggests there must be a conscious and planned movement from one language to the other in a regular and rational manner. As a result, Jacobson found that concepts are reinforced by processing them in both languages. Thus, in our lesson plan, we aim to have a social and structured activity that will facilitate successful translanguaging. Additionally, we drew from the video Bridging Content in a Bilingual Classroom that demonstrates a science lesson being given using translanguaging between students. The students are paired by differing language abilities, as we propose to do in our lesson. They are able to support one another when one student is composing a sentence or reading in their L2 language, but it is the L1 for the student assisting. This model promotes equal value given to both languages, and it also provides opportunity for interaction and discussion on a smaller level, rather than a whole class discussion. The lesson plan is as follows. Students will be part of two different groups. One is called the Rainforest Group, which is the scaffolded group according to Spanish and English abilities. Students will write distinct sentences in both languages about their assigned animal within this group. The second group is called the Animal Group, which is the group with which they will do their research about their assigned animals. In the beginning of class, the instructor explains that students will first get together with the Animal Group to become experts about their assigned animals. They will be given books and other instructional materials, including a computer, in both English and Spanish to research the animal and come up with the following items. 1. A list of adjectives that describe the animal. 2. Verbs and adverbs that describe its actions. And 3. A list of prepositional phrases that contextualize the animal's describing characteristics. For example, monkeys found in the canopy, jaguars on the forest floor, etc. All the words on the list will be color-coded according to the previous lesson. Red for adjectives, green for verbs, blue for adverbs, and purple for prepositional phrases. And there will be 2 columns under each category for lists in Spanish and English. Before splitting up into their animal groups, the instructor will preview that halfway through the class, they will switch and group up with their rainforest groups to put these words and phrases into sentences to create a book about a variety of rainforest animals. After the preview, the instructor will allow time for questions regarding the activity before breaking out into groups. The class then splits up into their animal groups to do research and write word lists. The instructor comes around to assist them in color-coding each one of these words and phrases. Students in the same animal group will work together to become experts on their chosen animal. They can also brainstorm different adjectives, verbs, adverbs, and prepositional phrases related to their animal in both Spanish and English. Coming up with these lists will aid them in writing their sentences later. Each animal group will consist of a variety of native Spanish and native English speakers at various proficiency levels. This way, students that are more advanced in one language versus the other can help the other students when they come up with their list of words in both languages. Halfway through instruction time, the instructor tells the students to finish up their research and complete their word lists. Then, the instructor tells the students to meet up with their rainforest groups to write 2 distinct sentences about their assigned animals, one in Spanish and one in English. The page on which they will write their sentences will be 2-sided. One side will be used to write their sentence in English, and the other side will be used to write their sentence in Spanish. The words will be color-coded in both languages so that they can easily see the different sentence structures for Spanish and English. Students are encouraged to illustrate their sentences in the illustration box above the lines. Similar to the animal groups, the rainforest groups will also have some more advanced speakers of English and some more advanced speakers of Spanish, so they will be encouraged to help each other when writing in their non-native language. Of course, the instructor will also come around to help students if they're confused about the syntax of each language. Finally, the students in each rainforest group share with one another what they learned and wrote about for their assigned animals. This way, all the students get to learn content knowledge about a variety of rainforest animals. The teacher then assists the students in each rainforest group to bind their pages together to create a complete booklet about rainforest animals.
One issue we struggled with was making an interactive translanguaging lesson. A major resource was the Bridging Content in a Bilingual Classroom video, which discussed having students work in groups or pairs of varying language proficiency, a model that appeared to be quite successful in the video, and that we tried to incorporate in our own lesson by putting students into groups that would ideally support their attempts to construct sentences in both English and Spanish. We also struggled to make a translanguaging lesson that held up against various critiques surrounding the concurrent usage of languages in the classroom. We used Chapter 8 of Baker's Educating Bilingual Children as a resource for most of the critiques, which included that effective translanguaging should A, equally value both languages, and B, be applicable to the age group. We also sought to create a lesson that would provide a fun and interactional environment to better engage students and would also provide structure but allow students more opportunity to discuss amongst themselves and support one another rather than simply being called on in a classroom discussion. Both of these issues are brought up by Zwires in his chapter, Academic Classroom Discussion. One issue in particular that we attempted to address was applicability for the age group, although we admit that the concurrent usage of Spanish and English in the classroom for first graders of varying language proficiencies could be confusing if not executed well. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we hope you find our lesson to be both appropriate and useful in any future planning. We appreciate and look forward to any feedback you may have. Thank you.